Well, to the both of you, congratulations on this new film, 100 Days to Live.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So let's start off with the easy question because I've seen this film. You know what? It is actually quite enjoyable. It's like this one great psychological thriller. But let's start off with the easy question and find out why did either of you want to participate in this type of project?
Do you want to go first, Ged, or me?
Sure, sure. Why did you want to do a movie? You're actors. You should be working on toilets. No, I mean, look, I think you could perceive it as being, a little dark. But I tend to think, for me personally, something that has a little darkness running through it tends to be more interesting, tends to be more challenging. And although, ironically, people find it hard to believe I did start out in stand-up comedy, I don't get those offers too often because I guess I don't look all Hollywood pretty boy, a little too much character in the face. But I found myself doing these sort of edgier roles, and I do kind of enjoy it because I feel there's a little more fun, you can have with them. In terms of 100 Days to Live, it was really refreshing because, for me, it was a villain who had a backstory, or a darker character, if you will, who had a backstory, whereas typically they don't. And also first-time writer-director who pretty much hit it out of the park. And I was like, I'm curious to work with this individual because clearly they're onto something, and it looked like it might be a fun project.
Mine is also similar to what Gid said. Serial killer movies are a dime a dozen, but reading the script and what you find beyond all the twists, which are so enjoyable, but all the characters, Ravine did such a great job writing in all of our backgrounds. And so there's so much depth, and you really get to figure out who each of these humans are and what brought them to the specific points in their life. Funny story, I was shooting a Netflix film up in Ohio, or over in Ohio, and I was reading the script when I was going in for it, and I got to a part in the script and I got so angry. I slammed the script down and I walked off and had tears in my eyes. And as an actor, when you have a script do that to you, you're like, yes. So it was definitely something. I love playing strong women, and the character, Dr. Rebecca Church, she's strong, and she's tested, and psychologically it was difficult as an actor, but I think we like challenges as well. So it was kind of the whole, everything combined made me very interested.
Absolutely. And Gideon, just to remark, some of the best stand-ups can play psychological villains quite easily. Like Robin Williams was one of those really unexpected villains on the big screen back in the day. So maybe.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think there's also something about comics, I think, who have their own darkness, and I won't pretend that I don't have my own
Right.
demons too. So I think there is something where I think those of us who maybe started in comedy or comics perhaps try to sort of lean into that side, but maybe there's some personal stuff too. But I think the more you can bring of yourself and your own inner world to a role, I think the more texture and interesting it can be. Yeah.
Well, as long as you're not admitting that you're a serial killer, we're fine.
Not as far as I know, unless I'm doing it in my sleep. Occasionally I come downstairs and find the milk in the cupboard or the cap in the fridge, but it's rare. And I think that may have more to do with the aging process than anything more.
Gid is one of the kindest gentlemen I've ever worked with. He could not be more opposite of this. But I do think that's why you were so amazing in this role. And I'm just putting that out there. But his character is my favorite character. And he just brings so much humanity to it. He brings so much humanity to it, and I love that. I think I think it's one of the best parts of the film.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's mutual.
One of the things that this movie actually tackled, where a lot of films and television tries to tread carefully, is the issue of suicide. Both of your characters basically play suicide preventionists, and also have a little bit of suicide tendencies. How much research or what did you do to actually get into your characters, either of you?
Well, for me, as soon as I found out that this was going to be something that I was going to be playing the role of, I talked to psychologists. It was really important for it to be firsthand, secondhand. I didn't want, hearsay. I didn't want to watch anybody's performance. I wanted to talk to psychologists, therapists. I spoke with suicide survivors. The internet is a wealth of information, and that really came in handy. But I also spoke with families that lost people to suicide and depression, and that was what made it easier for me to connect to the role and really, like you said, treading lightly. The most important thing to me during this process was playing it with as much honesty as I could.
What about for you, Gideon?
I mean, for me, obviously, it's perhaps a little different for Heidi, because it's her character doesn't sort of go off the rails, if you will. So shy of me going to an institution. I think what's interesting about Gabriel is I think he's so invested in what he does, where it becomes an absolute obsession, and then it starts to blur the lines for him between sort of professional and personal, and really what's appropriate, and that all becomes really, really murky. So for there, I sort of lean into my own imaginings of what I might do if I was in a similar situation where I was just so obsessed with a cause that I had to, and for me, it's sort of imagining a family member, that each individual he's talking to on the helpline is someone he knows and knows well, and it becomes a very, very personal thing. So it's obviously for me to make that leap to that, but and then after that, it's just having a little bit of fun with the role, but still having me not judge him, because I think that's a pitfall that actors can tip into, judging the character they're playing. Yeah.
Gideon, when you were portraying the character, did you ever saw yourself as the good guy, like technically what he did was justified?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think he thinks he's justified, the whole journey, and then it becomes this sort of righteous quest, even though obviously from the outset it's extremely dark. I'm sure, not to draw sort of parallels today in sort of the political world, because I think we're sort of 2020 has been a very long year that just has bled over into 2021. But I feel, the sort of, those folks who were sort of storming thought they were on some kind of righteous quest. But, for the rest of us standing and looking on, it seems clearly, a detachment from, reality to some respects. So I think it's allowing one's mind to go there and imagine if this is, if this is your calling, you believe this is your calling to do this, and it also sort of has parallels to, certain forms of religion where, people feel that they are called to save, and ultimately in this movie, Gabriel becomes, quote unquote, the savior, because he feels that he is this, not, a religious character, but I think he feels called upon to save people from themselves, although it ends up being quite dark.
I hope that our film actually what Gid hit on with him not judging his character. I hope our film does that a little bit for society. I think one thing that we fall short on is bringing mental health discussions to the forefront. And I think that what I really took from this film, and I hope other people see it, is individuals with depression or suicidal thoughts. They're some of the strongest people in the world. You know, they wake up every day. This isn't a temporary thought, and they fight it. And they fight it for themselves, and they fight it for the people that they love. And I hope that we show that. You know, I hope that as a society, we can overcome this stigmatism, because those people, they're not alone. And, you know, through my research, I actually found some really helpful platforms and places. You know, there's a place called Hope for the Day, and their big thing is you're not alone, and they're far from alone. We have 22 suicides a day. So we need to, as a society, start to reach out our hand to one another.
Well, Gideon explained how he could make the transitions back and forth, but Heidi, your character also made a huge transition because, you know, at a certain point she was on the top of the world, and then all of a sudden, you know, she was at the bottom. Could you talk about your shifts, your changes of your character, and putting yourself into that headspace?
Well, you know, so that's a great question. What I would say, part of that is the opposite of true joy is true anguish and the loss of the highest joys. And so when I was preparing for this role in real life, I'm a mommy. I'm a mommy of two little boys. And this was a 21-day shoot that, you know, I had to psychologically go to some dark places. So how I did that is I decided that when I was on set, I would commit 110% to being in the moment. And I would allow myself to grieve what I had at home. And then when I would be at home, I was 110% committed to joy and happiness and the absence of that pain. And but that, why I want to be careful about saying that is, you know, that is possible because when I go to set, I'm not playing my truth. I'm playing a truth that I know I can go home. But all I had to think about when I was at set was, what if I didn't have that to go home to? So it was definitely psychologically challenging. You know what I mean? I think that acting for a lot of artists is therapeutic. And there is that portion of it. To the opposite side, as soon as we got done shooting, I was supposed to go in for a lead of another film that was very dark and very dramatic, and I turned it down. I said, I just need 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks to like play. We had goats at the time, to play with the goats and you know, have cocktails with the girls, and you know what I mean? But yeah, again, I think that I was just so, I have known people that have committed suicide. And I always like to say manage depression, not struggle with depression. They're managing it. And I wanted to honor them completely. And so I was 1,000% committed, but when I went home, I was 1,000% committed to embracing the joy and the beauty of life and what I was grateful for.
Was it easy for you to turn it off, Gideon, once the cameras were off?
I mean, yeah, I firmly, I think that's great what Heidi said, because I think it really is the healthiest approach to this kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of, for whatever reason, I think actors and other entertainment business people tend to laud the whole, like, they stayed in the role the whole time. They stayed on and off set. You couldn't speak to, you know, fill in the blank actor because they were that, you know, that person, and they lived it through the whole thing. Now, I think it isn't healthy to do that when you're doing darker material, and also it's a little bit of an untruth too, because you're not improvising the movie. You're given lines, you're given blocking. You have to, you act that between action and cut. So you aren't those characters, and so you have to remind yourself you're not by bringing everything, as Heidi was saying, to set, and then obviously being able to pack it away afterwards. I guess for me, it's interesting question, because I felt very comfortable with doing, darker stuff, because I found, just bumped my mic there. I found myself getting cast a lot as villains, or brought in, to audition and booking those kinds of roles. But I didn't think of them as taking an effect, but I feel that, and I've only been thinking about this of late, but, after doing that for sort of 10, 15 years in the States, where I feel there is a little bit of this, I feel like I need to like sort of sage myself every so often, because some of it just is a residual sort of thing. If you're constantly sort of viewed as that, I'm talking very specifically about me sort of in my niche as, edgy bad guy, which is the majority of what I do on camera. It's a good reminder to self for me to slough it off. But typically speaking, I feel I'm more affected by real life personal interactions where people say negative stuff to me, and then that can just sort of sit in my head and gnaw away. And I'm not talking about like,
I'm the worst at that too. I'm the worst.
But yeah. So, but it's a good, it's a good one. Yeah.
How did you two develop your chemistry as friends, enemies, frenemies, whatever we want to call it?
Can I go first on this one?
Sure.
Gid really is so opposite of the character. I mean, and that's what shows his talent, because he humanizes this character. But he is such a gentleman, and I don't think my character. There are parts of the film where I feel close to him, and that was easy to connect with. Because I do feel very close with Gid. But I have had people in my life, as we all have, when we stop putting ourselves into what they feel and what we feel. But let's be true here. I've had people in my life and I'm like, okay, you went to the extreme side on something. And we see people transition. They transition all the time through ebb and flow of life. And so I kind of allowed him, when we were shooting, to transition. Like, this was a person who I felt close to, but that's not right, and that's not right, and that's really not right. When you're working with talented actors, it kind of is, not to say our job is easy, but when you're working with talented actors, you fall into the world. I mean, that's why we're actors. You just slip right into the world. But Gid is a dream come true to work with. I wish every project I could do in the future he would be on.
That's oh my goodness, that's like the nicest critique I think I've ever had. Yeah, no, likewise. I mean, look, Heidi's very emotionally available, and she's right here, which I think, her role Rebecca demanded. And, that's what makes it really interesting to watch. And it also makes her really easy to work with as an actor. So yeah, for me, I know that, especially when you're working on location, it feels like you're in a, tight production schedule, shooting block, and you're going to see these people every day. Life's too short not to, to get on with everyone and just be your best self. And Heidi brought her best self and was, emotionally available and stuff. And it was fun to do that. And it was also fun for me as an actor to have some of that vulnerability to play too, because, deep inside me, Heidi will say I'm really not a terrible individual. My wife might at times disagree, but I do know that like inside me, there's this frustrated Hugh Grant trying to get out if he could just book a different kind of role. And so it was fun for me to go there in me, to that more sort of vulnerable side, at least for portions in the movie, and it was obviously a treat to work with Heidi too. So yeah, it was, and it's not always the case. Not everyone does show up ready to play or feeling comfortable to play, and that's not necessarily a judgment on them, but it's we have our own these armor that we wear in life, and I certainly wear that in a lot of different situations, but I find myself more emotionally available when I'm working as an actor oftentimes than other situations. So yeah, it's I enjoy acting and blah 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 blah. But thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I was gonna say, Gideon, you're British, right?
Yeah, originally from the UK, and then I grew up in South Africa as well. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, the Brits are the one who plays the best gentlemen and villains at the same time. So so that's a credit to your genes.
Well, I think there's also the misappropriation of intelligence with British articulate individual, and then they're not necessarily one and the same, unfortunately. But so we sound intelligent, with a British accent, but it doesn't mean that what we have to say is more important than bread, milk, cheese. Yeah.
Just you saying those words sounded intelligent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Bread, milk, cheese.
There you go. Heidi, you actually had a love interest with Colin in this film. Talk about working with him.
Yeah, it was funny because Colin and I did a table read before we shot. We also did a day of where we had to take all these stills, because of the stills that you see in the film. So at that point, we had not met. And we have to do all these walking around Chicago. We went to Whole Foods and got lunch, and we went down to the beach, and it was perfect. I mean, talk about a perfect way to build a relationship before you're shooting. And I've never had that opportunity before. A lot of times you get to set, or you've had a chemistry read before, but it's still in a professional setting. And this was a professional setting, but no one can hear us. So we're making jokes, and Colin is great. I would say the gentlemen that I worked with on this film, between Gid, Yancey, Colin, Chris, they're all so different. And so that was lovely for me, whereas I would say Gid is this perfect gentleman. Colin is kind of, exactly what you think he's going to be. He's this boyish, fun, guy. So yeah, my job was not difficult.
That's
I'm sure many women in the United States were very envious of me.
and Gideon, it did look like you did have a lot of fun playing villain because I could tell this when you snuck up behind everybody and just basically trying to snuff them out or point a gun at somebody. So I guess that's the fun of playing a villain.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what is really fun for me, one of the biggest appeals for me as an actor, apart from the fact that I think I would lose my mind in an office cubicle type scenario, where people would say like, yeah, Gideon seems so sweet. He brought me coffee in the mornings, and he would get a sandwich for me every Wednesday, and then one day he just he blew up the building, and I don't know, he was so nice. It's good there wasn't anybody there, but I didn't know he was so angry. It's like I would be I might be one of those people, and I recognize it in myself. That's not why I went into acting, incidentally, but I just to find something where I wasn't like locked up. And I like the fact that within acting you get to explore all facets of yourself, roles permitting. And
Agreed.
I think there is the capacity for each of us to be extraordinary individuals in life, or to be, the absolute vilest, examples of humanity or inhumanity. And it's our challenge as actors to lean into those, knowing, as Heidi said earlier, that, you can leave it on set and come away. And the thing obviously is not to sort of glorify the the darkest sides of ourselves, but at least to explore them where hopefully there's some sort of conversation. I'm not sure if that answers your question. You say, "Oh, am I relishing the stuff?" So yeah, I relish leaning into all facets and stuff. But it is tough to arrive on set, and then meet someone like, "Hi, I'm Gideon. Oh, hi, I'm Leslie. Okay, yeah. So today I'm going to be murdering you." But anyway, fantastic. Well, I'm going to get a coffee and then we'll get stuck in. I'm not sure whether that's easier or the love scene with someone you've just met and you're meant to be, showing a relationship that's been going for several years. So it's interesting. It is occasionally there's an alchemy which happens where you have that chemistry and, and other times it can be more challenging. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question. I've taken both of you a lot of time from both of you already, but obviously we are speaking to each other, via Zoom virtually, because right now the world is just going through crazy times. So what I would like to know is, how are you staying sane and creative during this time?
Well, I adopted another dog. I now have 3 rescue dogs. So I actually grew up on a farm and my animals are my go-to. And right now, supposedly during the pandemic, almost all the rescues are empty. So that's awesome. That's one of those silver linings. So that's how I stay sane. Also my IPAs, that keeps me sane. And I think how I'm staying artistic is, luckily right now things have started back up and so we're acting, but one thing I learned after having a period of time off from having my children is, when you're an artist, you're an artist, and it doesn't matter if you're drawing with your kids, or I'm taking guitar lessons, or you're decorating your house. You're that person that has to have their creativity come out every single day, and that's a gift. It's a gift as long as you find your outlets. And so my outlets have really just been embracing where we are and what we can do. My husband is actually a first responder. So we've really seen, he has really seen, I should say, some of the darkest parts of this pandemic. And again, referring back to the film, finding my gratefulness is a big part of it. And then, yeah, I'm not good on the guitar yet, but I'm working on it. The other thing is, you brought up that we're Zooming right now. I have never had such an appreciation for everybody else on set. I mean, talk about an artistic collaboration. That's what films and TV are. So now I've learned lighting, I've learned makeup for on the camera. I'm not showing up and anyone doing my makeup today. Costuming, I'm steaming now, backdrops. I feel like I should get a grip, maybe be in the union or something. Yeah, but I actually enjoy it. I've done this several times, setting up my Zoom shot, and I'm like, oh yeah, it really does block out everything else.
Sounds like Heidi's preparing herself to be a director soon. What about for you, Gideon? What's helping you stay sane and creative?
I got to say that is it's a great question, because in the first few months of the pandemic, I was signing off my emails, no jokes, as stay creative, stay sane. That's literally, and it's so that, right? For me, I do have to be, I know I have a busy mind, so I need to do stuff with it. So for me, I got to try and stay on the meditation wagon, and exercise is hugely important to me. If I don't exercise for a couple of days, I know my mood starts to tank. Initially it was a little annoying because I had some stretchy bands and you couldn't buy weights for, well, you could buy them, but they were sort of 300% markup. It was ridiculous. So I bought a rusty pair of dumbbells at 2.5 times what they should have cost, but that gives me a small range of stuff. Anyway, I have built up, let's say a weight collection in order to kind of keep myself amused. And then, yeah, home projects as well. I'm sort of fixing up place that is 100 years old, and that's actually been really, I'm not going to say I'm Harrison Ford carpenter level. I don't know what his level was, black belt maybe. Maybe I'm orange. I know I'm mixing metaphors, but I do find that there is some, apart from the occasional sort of, nicking myself. Jigsaw. I bought a jigsaw. I was so thrilled about doing that. I rebuilt our threshold. The doorstep. It's like I didn't even know what a threshold was. And there's a lot you can find on YouTube. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. And funny enough, Heidi and her husband have been inspirational because she posts stuff, and you had a cut through. You guys built in the fence so you could have like sort of drinks with your neighbors or something.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh darn it, that's what I need. I need one of those things. I haven't built one of those things. I'm not at that level with my neighbors yet, but but yeah, little sort of handyman projects and working out for sure. Creative wise, trying to keep writing, and then I feel like I'm continually in demand to be increasingly creative with my little one. I have a daughter, and occasionally I get a thumbs up, and occasionally she rates me poorly. She doesn't have actual cards to sort of hold up, but she does a lot of stuff where, like, we sing songs and we have sort of spontaneous dance parties and stuff, but there's a lot of like, no dancing, I'm dancing, no singing, no laughing, which is hysterical. And then some of her words are British and some are American because her mum's American, so that's always entertaining to me. But if we laugh, of course, that's problematic, so we have to bring the laughter inside. But yeah.
That is terrific. Well, hey, congratulations to the both of you for your film, 100 Days to Live. This is a pleasant conversation. I can't wait to do this again with either of you again.
Thank you. And thanks for having us in. This isn't a big studio film. And so you promoting it and people getting out there and renting it or buying it. And that's how these films make it. That is the story of an indie film. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good to see Heidi again. I haven't seen Heidi since we made the film, so, albeit virtual. Yeah.
Yeah, good to see you.
Excellent. Next time.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.